Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to talk about staying flexible and mobile, and not mentally but physically. Mobility is so important, and it's easy to lose that range of motion and the flexibility in our muscles when we just sit and are stagnant and are not doing things to keep our body active, even if we're not as active as we usually are. So I have a couple of things that we can use, and they might be things that you have around the house. I have a softball and a lacrosse ball. There are also products that are specifically designed for self-myofascial release, which is what this is, what keeps our muscles less tight and breaks up all the fascia that can build up when we are either A, working out a lot, or B, not working out a lot. And they're a line of tools by a company called RAD, which I actually love. I love so much that I've given a lot of my products away to my friends. This is called the RAD Center. It's a little bit flexible, and it's actually for your abdominal area and intestines to kind of get everything released and rolled out without the pressure of a super hard softball. So there's that. There's also the RAD roller, specifically designed for your neck and the spots, the extensors around your spine, and also really great for, hamstrings or the calf where you've got a little bit of a divot, so you can really roll into the muscles. The beautiful thing about RAD is that their products are actually designed specifically for this. So as opposed to using a ball that's designed for softball or lacrosse that has a really hard metal center, these are actually not as dense, not as rigid. They're the perfect kind of balance for rolling out your muscles. They've got enough give in them that it's not so intense, because some of my muscles, when they're really tight, are pretty sensitive, and rolling with a really hard tool can actually make it more tight. We have that instinctual reaction to flex more or like tense up. So this is a really easy way to kind of get into that rolling a little bit more gradually, not as harshly. I love my RAD roller. I will not ever give this away because it's very helpful for me, and I like to use it with a yoga block, which I'll show you in just a moment. There are also the RAD rollers, or I'm sorry, RAD, I can't think of what they're called right now. Anyway, they're individual rollers rather than the two joined together. RAD rounds, that's what they are. So there's one that's just a single green ball like this, a little blue one that's a little bit more targeted for smaller areas like the back of your neck or the bottoms of your feet, or calf is really good. You can actually put this, oh man, it's like the worst but the best, between your thigh and your knee, right in that crease, and just kind of lean into it and roll back and forth. Oh man, a really targeted way to get into those very small muscle fibers that this is not going to get in for you. And then we also have the tiniest RAD round. It's this little black one, and it is for the muscles between your metatarsals and metatarsals, phalanges, fingers and toes. It's been a while since 7th grade biology, but you can actually get in to the spots. That when this part of your hand gets super sore, I have that, and this really helps. And then also to roll out the bottoms of your feet in a very targeted and specific way. Oh my goodness. You can feel that little crunch when you roll it out. So anyway, these are a line of products that I really like and use, and you can find the link to check them out below. There are lots of other tools as well. They've got a big ball, kind of like a softball, but again, it's designed specifically to release muscles that are tight and break up that fascia, called the RAD Atom. And it actually fits on the RAD rod, which is it's almost like a rolling pin, but for your muscles. And it's a very long, thin rod that you can use to roll out the really long muscles of your body, whether it's the calf or the quad or the hamstring, and you can kind of use it with that atom to manipulate. And then there's the RAD axle as well, which is a bigger, thicker rolling tool that I'll show you in just a moment. For broader shoulders or the low back, because sometimes this sort of targeted pressure right on the low back can be a little bit painful. So it's got a bit of a wider surface area to really get in that targeted area again without causing that stretch reflex that's actually gonna make you tighter rather than more relaxed. So I'll show you a couple ways to use these. Like we just talked about, the really tiny RAD round is really great for hands and feet. The smaller RAD round, and actually, you know what? This really small one is really good for, I get migraines a lot, and it's really good for targeted like temple release. There's just something to be said about having a tool to rub anywhere that is like really sensitive. Like I could use my thumb, right? But it literally feels completely different. I don't know why, don't ask me. It's like, if you cook something, it always is better when someone else makes it for you, right? You could cook the same bowl of mac and cheese, but when someone else makes it for you, it tastes better. It's the same thing with this tool. I could do this for myself, but having something else to do it for me, it literally is a lifesaver. Right at my temples and down around, is it the occipital lobe? Is that what that is? Just right under your spine. Because it's such a tiny surface area, as long as you can keep track of it and not lose it, it is like the best for targeted release to help that blood keep flowing. Yeah, so that's another way that I use this one. You can use this one, again, for a targeted area. Now I like to use a yoga block. RAD has a yoga block that actually is a self-storage unit for all of these little tools. It's a little bit too tall for me because I'm a shorter person. So when I have my neck propped up, I like to be a little bit lower, closer to the ground. So, but it's a really good tool for leveraging if you're gonna roll. So if I had like a really specific pull in my shoulder, which I sometimes get across my pec, if I've done a lot of chest work, like this area gets really tight, and to really get a little bit deeper than the big surface area of like a softball, let's say, I can use this tiny little ball by elevating it and bringing my shoulder slash pec right onto it. And honestly, you don't have to do anything. You can just breathe into this and move your arm, oh my gosh, like really gradually, and you can literally feel where it changes and where the knots are. It's almost like that little crunch, you know, you can feel in your muscles when you roll them out. Oh my gosh, like you don't have to do much of anything. You just kind of manipulate until you feel the muscle loosening. It's like a world of difference. And all you have to do is be still, really. Like if you give yourself 10 minutes on each side, once a day, to roll out kind of each area that's sensitive to you, you will notice a huge difference in your natural range of motion and your mobility. It's insane what a little adjustment to your routine can actually do for your overall health, well-being, and body. If you are super sore, so the RAD Center, as I mentioned, is designed for your organs, but if you're super sore, it's actually a really good, like cushy, less harsh, like we were talking about, way to roll out the bigger muscle groups too. So same thing, I wouldn't need to elevate it since it's a little bit bigger, and you can actually use it, say if you've got sore pecs, to really kind of roll in. So there's pressure, but it's not as harsh as it would be with a smaller tool. But definitely still feeling exactly what I felt on this shoulder, but with a bigger surface area. So more big muscle shifts rather than those really small individual fibers feeling crunchy. So, and same thing, you can use it to roll out. Oh man, if you've got tight hip flexors or that psoas, now the psoas is pretty deep in there, so it takes a lot to kind of get into that targeted area. Where I have used a softball for that before, it hurts like a mofo. So this is a really good way to kind of get into that area and keep everything broken up, safe, moving, but without the really intense like pain point of a smaller, sharper tool. This has the flexibility to kind of get in there, but also not take your breath away, you know? which is really, really nice. And you can inflate it to whatever size, feel like the comfort level, the cushiness, very technical term, that feels good for you. I am definitely someone who struggles with gut health and digestive issues. So to have something like this where I can actively kind of work on and roll out any of those sensitive areas is really, really important, and it helps a lot. So one of the reasons that I love this tool specifically, my RAD center, keeps me centered. But I'm saving my favorite tool and my favorite exercise for you for last. So, and again, I'm doing a little bit shorter than I normally would on my own, just for demonstration purposes, but yeah, 10 minutes in each area. You can literally do this while you're watching TV or listening to a podcast, or, you know, instead of, it's the best way to multitask, I find. My favorite way to use the RAD roller, as I mentioned, I get migraines occasionally, so I use a yoga block. I put the RAD roller on this yoga block, and I lay back with my neck on the RAD roller. Literally my whole body just got goosebumps. Like, this is the best feeling I think I've ever had. And if you work out a lot and you have tight muscles, this is like it's actually almost like a state of meditation. I can't even describe it to you. Using this like right at the base of your skull and just nodding your head is life-changing. I can't tell you. You have to experience it. But it just takes this much, especially if you're someone that has migraines. This has helped me so much, because the reason we get headaches can be because the capillaries, the blood flow is restricted. So keeping these muscles nice and loose and everything freed up to keep the blood flowing is so important. And it was like, I can't even say enough good things about this. Just this little tiny movement. You can nod your head yes and no, you can shake it back and forth, and you can even just be still and just breathe into it. Like, if you could just relax into it, it is life-changing. Now, this is my favorite way to use it, but there are different ways to use it. I also have a really tight low back, especially when I sit so much for work. So, in addition to that, you can also set it under the low part of your back to get a really targeted release right through the pelvis and hips. Not the pelvis, the backs of your hips. Yeah, and again, it's not even like there's a good way to do it. It's basically whatever feels good to you. So whether you just sit, whether you roll it up, oh man, like you can find, well, honestly, even if you feel like your pain is like low tailbone, hips, sacrum kind of area, you can literally find where that is coming from based on what feels best when you roll around. Oh my gosh. I could stay here for a really long time. So again, you can use it for low back, you can use it up and down your entire spine. What I do not recommend is cookie dough rolling, like rolling pins super fast. This is not what this is for. This is for slow and intentional release into each area of the body. So, and also like, I can't say enough good things about these. They literally open my eyes to kind of when we go to the gym and we grab a big foam roller and we're like rolling our muscles out, the pressure feels good, but because the surface area is so big, it's not actually maximizing the breaking up of the fascia. And the fascia is what makes our muscles stick together when they've been working, when we're using them. And when we don't stretch or don't release it, they stay tight and they stay sore. But if we can break it up, they can keep moving smoothly and together, and that's what keeps us mobile. So you can even, I don't even have to work out to need these. You can turn them sideways for my hamstring. My hamstrings get tight when I sit at work, and you can literally just kind of roll side to side. Now again, I like the roller because you can kind of trap the muscles between the two and you can roll up and down. Like you can literally feel the bulk of your hamstring between the rollers and kind of gauge where you can break it up and kind of shift the leg back and forth. Or you can use the smaller RAD roller or the single green RAD roller to kind of shift just with one single surface area. I just like the roller because it's so versatile. You can literally use it for anything. Yeah, calf too. My calves get tight. Don't know about yours. Oh man, just having that little surface area. Plus, even if you want something that's a little bit more pinpoint, trigger point pressure, this particular tool, the RAD roller, comes in 3 different densities, basically. So this green one is the softest of the 3. There's a blue one that's like the standard density, which is a little bit harder, and then there's a black one that's very pinpoint trigger pressure targeted. Some people really like the direct pressure, but again, it's about doing what you can handle without that stretch reflex that's gonna make you tense up. We don't want that. We wanna be able to relax fully while doing this. So anyway, these are just a couple tools that I use at home. Again, it's really easy to do if you're sitting waiting for your dinner to cook in the oven, watching TV, listening to a podcast. You know, if you're cleaning the house, obviously this is not the time to do it. But when you find yourself still, this is a really good way to use that stillness to stay mobile. So if you want to check out the line of RAD tools, I'll put the link below and also some additional info. And if you do happen to purchase any of the RAD products, you actually get a little pamphlet that explains all about the movements that you can do with the product and also the point, right? There's lots of suggestions about what you can use and myofascial release as well. You get a little info packet, ways to use it and why they're so beneficial. It talks about breaking up the fascia, like what we just talked about. It's a little shiny, you can't really see it, but it gives you all the info and it gives you all the exercises that you can do with each tool, which is really, really cool. Just a good way to have some stuff in your house that will help you stay mobile and active, even if you're feeling like you can't get out to do that as much as you want without the bulk of a foam roller. You can literally put this in your carry-on and take it with you on an airplane. That's another thing that I do. I travel a lot, as most of you know, and it's the easiest thing to take with me, especially when I know I'm on an airplane, because I'm always really stiff after I get off a long flight. Yeah, so just convenience factor, something that I like to use. You certainly don't have to. There's lots of alternative options, but it is nice to have something that's designed specifically for this, especially if you're an active person like me, and even if you're not, yeah, just another way to take care of your body. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Check out the link below, and see you next time.